What's up, guys? Jameson Gordon here, and today I will be doing a final project for Ohio Media School, and I will be selecting 5 picks for the college football games that I like the most on November 18th, Saturday. It is currently 12:02 p.m., so the 12 o'clock noon slate has started, though none of my games include that, so there will be no cheating. This is all pre-game determined. So we're going to start this off. But first, before we get into it, I would like to say this is something I am going to look to do more in the future. I will try to start a YouTube channel. I already have a TikTok and a Instagram as well at 258 Sports Network. I am locked out of the Instagram because I currently do not have a phone number, no SMS available for me right now. I don't have a phone, I don't have my glasses, and there's quite frankly a lot going on in my life right now. So once I get everything together, hopefully for the new year, I'll be ready to be up and at 'em and be a little bit more consistent with everything going on. But nonetheless, let's get into these picks. And I got 5 picks that I like the most. Wrote down some notes about all of these, and I would like to talk over them. And I even have a dog of the day pick, which is where we pick something with underdog odds. So basically what that means is at least plus 100. That makes it an underdog pick. So let's say if I put $1 on that, I'd win 2. So basically an underdog pick will at least double your money, and I do have one of those, and it's actually a really good one. Some of these odds are courtesy of FanDuel. Some of these are just odds I've seen on BetMGM or some that I've seen out there in general while watching or navigating ESPN. But let's get into this first pick, and we're going to look at the Oregon State and Washington Huskies game. This is slated for a 7:30 start on ABC. And in this one, we have the 8-2 Oregon State Beavers giving host to the 10-0 Washington Huskies. The Huskies sitting outside of the top 4 in the college football playoff rankings, and they have a Heisman candidate in Michael Penix Jr., and, they sit at number 5, and a lot of people think they need to win out and win their conference championship to even have a chance, not even guaranteed, but to even have a chance of getting into the college football playoff. I do agree with that. They definitely got to win out just because they're in the Pac-12, and it would be great to see the Pac-12 get someone in their last year of existence. Now, when we look at Oregon State, Oregon State, this team's 8-2. With DJ Uiagalelei at a quarterback. Sorry if I butchered that. I tried my best. And, they're 8-2, yet they're 6 points away from being 10-0 and maybe even being in the college football playoff discussion. I mean, they lost by 3 on the road to Washington State early on in the season. Then they lost by 3 again to Arizona, just a couple of weeks ago. And, Arizona, obviously, they've been a shocker to everyone, but, they've rose to the occasion this year, actually being ranked up all the way to this point for the first time in a hot minute. I would say, it is worth mentioning that Washington is 4-1 in the last 5 meetings of this rivalry versus Oregon State. And quite honestly, a couple of those have come in Oregon State. But, I think Oregon State being favored in this does make sense. They do have the home field advantage. They've played most of their good football at home. DJ has taken care of the ball for the most part this season, though. I think he could be better at times. I think this is going to be a game where Oregon State's going to try and run the ball a lot in the trenches. I don't really see them trying to compete with Washington in the air. 9 players on Oregon State have over 30 tackles on the season, so this is a very good defensive team. They're all nose to the football guys. So I do like Washington to win this because at the end of the day, this game will come down to quarterback play, and I think Michael Penix Jr. is going to make the more aggressive and dot throwing plays, whereas DJ, I'm not saying he's going to turn the ball over, but I just don't think he's going to make those down the field throws that can exactly win you a tight game against a top 5 team like Washington. Moving on to our second game here, And this one is the only player prop that we have. This one was on FanDuel, and it is a -110, so pretty good odds here. And it's a 4 p.m. start, and we are looking at the Ohio State versus the Minnesota game. This is in Columbus, and this is Ohio State's last home game of the year before they head up north for the game. And, Ohio State's laying 27.5 points against PJ Fleck and the Gophers. And, I think it's reasonably so that this line is at 4 touchdowns. I mean, the Gophers are coming off of a 19-point road loss to the Purdue Boilermakers, where Hudson Card absolutely looked like the 4-star quarterback that he was coming into college. And, it is a Minnesota team who doesn't have the strongest offense ever in the world, and I think the only reason that no one really talks about Minnesota's offense is because they're in the same conference and division as the Iowa Hawkeyes. I mean, if the Iowa Hawkeyes weren't in the talks, then maybe it'd be Wisconsin, but even Wisconsin has put up points in certain spots this season. But I like Marvin Harrison to go over 110.5 receiving yards. Kyle McCord absolutely feeds this guy the ball. It is similar to like Jerry Rice and Joe Montana. And I am not saying McCord is Joe Montana, but I'm more saying Marvin Harrison is closer to Jerry Rice, I mean, he gets enough targets a game. He's hit this 6 out of 10 times this season. The only games where he hasn't hit this prop was against Rutgers, Indiana, Notre Dame, and Purdue. And even against Purdue, he still had 6 catches for 105 yards, so he missed out by 6 yards. And that was a game where Ohio State blew him out, so they took him out early. And, I'm actually going to throw a good amount of money on this because I think Ryan Day and his Ohio State staff, they realized that if they can get Marvin Harrison a Heisman, it would only give the College Football Playoff Committee more reason to put them in. If you have the Heisman on your team, you always have a chance to make the college playoff unless you have more than 2 losses. Even with 2 losses, it is still a possibility depending on the year. But I think we're going to see Marvin Harrison get force-fed the ball a lot. Like, I'm looking for probably 10 to 11 targets. I could see him playing 3, maybe all 4 quarters. But at the same time, I could also see Ohio State kind of just cruising in this game, maybe winning like 31-10, 31-14, and just really looking forward to that game next week against Michigan, which is a big one for both schools. I also like Marvin Harrison to score a touchdown. I didn't look at his touchdown prop, but he scored a touchdown in 8 out of 10 games this season. The only games he hasn't scored in was the Notre Dame and Indiana game. And quite honestly, when he scored out of 8 out of 10 games, I mean, it's definitely worth putting some money on him to at least score 1 touchdown. And then in 4 out of the 10 games this season, he has scored multiple receiving touchdowns. So 40% chance there for him to score multiple touchdowns. And if he's going to do it, I think it's going to be against this Minnesota Golden Gophers defense. As I said, they let Hudson Card basically look like a prime Russell Wilson out there last week. He was just throwing the ball left and right. Purdue would score. For every answer Minnesota had, Purdue would score, So, yeah, I like Marvin Harrison to go over 110.5 receiving yards. And that is my second pick. My third pick comes in a 3:30 p.m. slot here, and we have the newly ranked number 1 Georgia Bulldogs laying 9.5 on the road against the Tennessee Volunteers. And this one's kind of straightforward. Tennessee has only won 2 times out of the last 10 in this rivalry, and they're 0-5 in the last 5. All of the losses in the last 5 have been by double digits, and 4 of them have been at least by 20. The smallest margin being when they lost by 13 points, and that came just last year. But obviously, this Tennessee team has changed a lot from last year. You could tell it's night and day from Hendon Hooker and Joe Milton running the offense. And a lot of people were hype on Joe Milton going into this year, from last year. Threw 10 touchdowns, no picks last year, and was the backup, while the starter still threw for over 40 touchdowns. So a lot of people figured, the sky's the limit with Joe. A lot of people had him for Heisman even before the season started. Yes, that is a fact. I was on the Joe Milton train, but I hopped off probably a couple of weeks ago. I just don't think, Joe Milton's really got it. And it's his last year of eligibility, so maybe he comes out in this game with some fire. I don't know. But, I mean, he just hasn't really been that impressive. He's got an inaccurate cannon and he's a strong runner, but that's about it. I mean, he's not really going to beat you in the air consistently. And against this Georgia team with one of the best defenses of the last 3 years and probably the last 10 years, in general, it's going to be hard for me to see Joe Milton going off, even in a home game. I think Kirby Smart is going to outcoach Heupel, and it's just going to be a Georgia. I think Georgia wins this game. Probably, we're going to go with 35-20. Right. So they win by 15, which is still bad at home to lose by 15. I mean, even the number one team, you're in the SEC, you're expected to win. So bad loss, but I don't know. I mean, the Tennessee Volunteers, they do have the try backfield. They got Sampson, they got Wright and Small, but then on the outside they really don't have Squirrel White, and it doesn't really matter if you got Squirrel White if your quarterback can't get him the ball accurately. So we're gonna lay the 9.5 with Georgia. Georgia is just 6 players over 200 receiving yards. Brock Bowers is healthy again. I even though they're on the road, that doesn't really hinder me enough. Like, if this was a night game, I would think differently, but, Tennessee, they really just got nothing going for them. I think they're just kind of, at this point, they just realize and accept that they're going to be in, like, a mediocre bowl game. So, who knows? Maybe we could see Tennessee play Northwestern in a bowl game. Northwestern would win that, in my opinion, right now. That's just me as a Big Ten fan, though. Now we're going to look towards our dog of the day. And this one was on FanDuel. This one is only on FanDuel. It's probably other places, but you could probably parlay it maybe. But it's for plus 100, and I actually like it. It's for Ohio State and Michigan to both win their games by 14. Not exactly 14, by at least 14. Now, I like this one because obviously Ohio State's laying 28, so all they got to do is cover half the spread for this one. And I think we can definitely beat Minnesota by 14 for sure. Minnesota has only beaten Ohio State twice since 1981, and it was in 1981 and 2000. So, they don't play every year, but they have played enough in that time span to where it's kind of an automatic win for Ohio State. But PJ Fleck, he does coach hard. And last year, Ohio State only won the game 41-31. So it will be interesting to see how it goes this year. And I think this is a great spot for Michigan because although they're going on the road to Maryland, and it is on right now, I have not checked the score, I do think this is a great spot for Michigan. Michigan is going to try and tune up their offense for next week against Ohio State. And what better to do it than against this Maryland defense. This Maryland defense has not done it any favors this season. The only reason that they are bowl eligible is because Taulia Tagovailoa is actually a good quarterback and makes good reads and knows how to basically carry a team with no defense. Michigan's laying 19, so once again, they're basically giving us 5 extra points here to play with. So I think Michigan can win by 2 scores in this game against Maryland. Michigan has a great pass defense, great defense compared to Maryland, So Taulia, he's probably going to throw the ball 40, 50 times, but, how many times are the Maryland Terrapins going to actually score? And can you really stop Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards? No, that's a really hard thing to ask for. And with that is our dog of the day. So plus 100 for Michigan and Ohio State to both win their games by 14. Moving on, we have an interesting one. We got LSU taking on Georgia State at home. Now, a lot of SEC teams have out-of-conference games this weekend. This is the best one out of all the SEC games, But besides the ones that are playing each other, like Kentucky, South Carolina, Florida, Missouri. But I like this game because Georgia State comes into this game 6-4. So although they have clinched, now they are basically playing for a better bowl. LSU They got 3 losses, you know. And LSU's laying 31.5 last time I saw it. I think it's kind of gone up to like 33.5. But that is a lot of points for a Georgia State team, which is pretty good. You know, Georgia State averaging 27.1 points a game this season with a 46.5% third down conversion rate. You know, that's pretty good. I mean, and they're 6-4 because of it. You know, Georgia State these last couple of years, they've been known for having a high volume offense. But the defense, it's been mid at best. And, you know, LSU, they're averaging 45.9 points with a 54.7 third down conversion rate. And they average the most total yards in the FBS and probably the whole country. That's including any division in football. I mean, LSU's averaging over 560 yards in total yards a game. I mean, it's ridiculous. Jaden Daniels is over 3,000 passing yards. He's got 30 touchdowns. And he's probably going to eclipse 1,000 rushing yards this game. He's over 900. He leads the team. I mean, Jaden Daniels is LSU. If Jaden Daniels was not at LSU as their quarterback this season, they would have maybe 2 or 3 wins. And one of those would be in the SEC. I promise you. I promise you. Jaden Daniels is legit. Even as an Ohio State fan, I got to give him the Heisman. I mean, how could you not give him the Heisman? But it's going to be interesting, you know, because he's a Heisman candidate and Malik Neighbors is a Heisman candidate who is the receiver 1 for LSU. So I think today we're going to see LSU really try to score a lot of points. You know, it's going to be like the Army game where it's 63-0, but except Army brought nothing to the table. They only had a run game. You know, Georgia State, they can run the ball. They got a 1,000-yard rusher, and they can throw the ball. They got a good quarterback who takes care of the ball. And, you know, Darren Granger, he has better road splits. He completes 67% of his passes on the road, whereas at home he's only completing 62%. You know, he's throwing for 2.4 more yards on the road. He is literally sacked less on the road. So this Georgia State offense appears to be better on the road when they have the cards stacked against them. And, you know, with them getting 30-plus points laid against them on the spread, I think they're going to take that personally. You know, I think Georgia State's going to come out here to play. They can keep up, you know, especially since LSU, they don't have the best defense in the country. LSU makes Ole Miss's defense look like the '85 Bears. And Lane Kiffin, by God, has never had has never had a good defense. You know? But I think this is a game where Brian Kelly, he's going to really try and get Jaden Daniels a lot of touches, a lot of scores, you know, a lot of read options, a lot of bombs to Malik Neighbors. You know, LSU could try to run up the score, but the only problem with that is I think Georgia State is going to be able to keep up. Georgia State might even be able to cover. I've been thinking about that as a possibility, but I like the over 73.5. I mean, yeah, we're asking, you know, for a good amount of touchdowns, a lot of scoring here, but if we can get like 40 combined points in the first half, this will easily hit, you know. And if Georgia State can keep it close, you know, then it will definitely hit because LSU is going to try even harder in the second half. So with that being said, we will be taking the over 73.5 in the LSU versus Georgia State game. Moving on to our last pick, and we have the most lucrative college bet. And if you already know what I'm talking about, then you're probably so excited for this game. But I can't say the same for many people. And this game is slated for a 3:30 p.m. start. And we will be taking the under in the Iowa-Illinois game. That's right. We are taking the under 36.5. It is valued at minus 158. I think this is an absolute steal. I would throw money on this. Iowa has won 4 of the last 5 meetings. Now, 3 of those 5 have gone over. Except last year, Iowa lost 6-9. The under hit in that. And then in 2019, they won 19-10, the under hit in that. In 2018, Iowa won 63 rip. over. In 2020, they won 35-21, over. In 2021, they won 33-23, over. So whenever Iowa scores 30 plus in this series, the over always hits. Whenever Iowa scores under 20, the under hits. And whenever Illinois scores under 10, the under hits. In the last 5 when the under is hit, both teams are 1-1. Now, I really like this game, but a lot of people are on the over because they think Paddock, the new quarterback who's filled in for Altmaier on the Illinois Fighting Illini, they think he's going to light it up. I don't think so. Even despite Cooper DeJean being out for the Iowa Hawkeyes, I still think their defense is going to step up, next man up. It's a thing every coach preaches. I think Iowa's going to be ready. Iowa is at home. Iowa's 8-2. All right. Iowa is going to be in a Big Ten championship. I think Iowa is here to make a statement. Now, I don't think Deacon Hill is a good quarterback, but I think the rest of that offense is going to propel them up so good. This is going to be a game completely won in the trenches. Bryan and Williams, the two receivers for Illinois, they've been great, but it'll be interesting to see which one of them goes off today, because one of them will have a good game with Cooper DeJean out. I'm not saying both of them will, but one of them will have to have a good game if they want to even keep it close. Reggie Love and Fegan for Illinois, they got 2 solid running backs, but once again, the game in the trenches is going to be how this game is won. 11 players with over 30 tackles on the Illinois defense, insane stat, and then 10 active players with over 30 tackles on the Iowa defense. It would be 11, but Cooper DeJean is out. And, I also put in the next factor, Iowa's kicker, Stevens. He's probably one of the best kickers in the Big Ten. He's probably one of the most valuable kickers in the Big Ten and FBS as a whole. I mean, he's won Iowa a couple of games this year off his leg, and he's going to be a big factor here. But at the same time, with me saying all of that, I'm going to take the under 36.5 for minus 158 value in the Iowa Hawkeyes in Illinois Fighting Illini game. So, let's go over my picks one more time. Pick number 1, we are taking Washington Huskies on the money line to beat the Oregon State Beavers. And this game starts at 7:30 p.m. We will also take them plus 3.5 because they are underdogs. Our second pick, we will be taking Marvin Harrison over 110.5 receiving yards versus the Minnesota Golden Gophers. We will also take him to score and score twice as well. Our third pick, we are laying 9.5 with Georgia against Tennessee. Number 1 versus number 21. Quarterback that's decent, quarterback that's inaccurate. Give me Georgia. And pick number 4, this one is our dog pick. We're taking Michigan and Ohio State to win by 14 plus in each of their games. Michigan is on the road against Maryland. That game is on currently. And Ohio State is at home against Minnesota. And our other pick, LSU versus Georgia State. We're taking the over 73.5. I like both of these high-scoring offenses, and they both have very, very Olay defenses. So I expect a lot of scoring in this one, and I expect to see a lot from the Heisman hopefuls in Jaden Daniels and Malik Neighbors. And finally, our last pick, we will be taking the most profitable bet in college football in basically the last 2 years. We will be taking the under 36.5 for a minus 158 value in the Iowa Hawkeyes versus Illinois Fighting Illini game. And with that being said, those are my 6 picks, and that is my final project. I would have done the Boston College and Pittsburgh game, but I had to coach a scrimmage and didn't want to miss any plays, and I already missed a couple of plays when that game started. And I also wasn't really prepared to do a Bengals-Ravens game. So I just said, you know what, I'll just make my picks. But with that being said, I'm Jamison Gordon via 258 Sports Network and Come On Ref Network as well, and Ohio Media School, and Future Endeavors as well. With all that being said, I wish you all a happy pick day, happy college football Saturday, and have a happy day in general. And with that being said, that is my final project and my picks of the day.